And we're live. LTS working group meeting for the Node Foundation on the 6th of July. So we're launching into looking at the LTS strawman that was posted during the week, last week, and what feedback has come out of that. James, do you have the issue open, and do you have anything else you want to tell us about regarding feedback from that?
Yeah, I have it open right here. The overall, the conversation around it was very positive. Seemed to be very well received. The really three key questions that came out of it. One is how it relates to the proposed release process, whether there's going to be one or more merges from Next over into master and how that impacts this. Kind of a another conversation, but we just would need to figure out the right process for coordinating those with the LTS releases. The second one is the versioning. How the versioning is going to work from Next, Master, and LTS. Are they going to be all one version stream, or is each going to have its own versioning? And then the third one was, I'm trying to remember. I had a third one a second ago. Oh, the third one is the cycle going to be fixed, or is it like we release it at the same date every year? Is it going to be a time-based schedule, or is it just going to be when we think Next is ready to merge? Right. So the actual dates for when these things happen could float from one release to another. So those are the three main concerns that I saw noted.
Can you just repeat the second one? Sorry, just the gist of that. I've just forgotten as you said it. So I need to write down.
If I can remember it too, my brain's been on about a dozen things today. There was the versioning of Next and Master and LTS. Right? Is Next going to have its own version independent of Master? Is that going to be is it going to carry through right over to the LTS release, or are they going to be independent of one another? I know there were some concerns raised about that. I think that the overall consensus is that there's one version across all three. It's just a matter of how that impacts the LTS, because what you could end up with is an LTS which jumps multiple major versions from the previous LTS the previous year.
Well, I've been trying to have this discussion with Michael and Dominic just about the Next to Master, and yeah, my issue, I don't even care if it jumps multiple majors. My issue is that you won't have steady increments in the major. Like you can go from 2 to 5 to 7. Right, and so you basically need a table to look up what version was stable, what version was LTS, right?
Isn't like the newest discussion just to have Next have its own versions and just do releases every time it does a breaking change, like every 6 weeks? Maybe.
Well, from the discussion, what I got is the latter is true, basically one release every 6 weeks, one breaking release every 6 weeks. And then the former about having its own versioning, I feel like there were some that were heavily against that. They wanted the same version number to propagate through everything. But see, the issue is that 52 weeks of a year don't directly divide between the 6-week release cycle of the 8. And so even if we say we're going to release on a steady day, the 1st of July or whatever every year, that still means there's a possibility of overlap and having a different offset of major versions
Oh,
So the question then becomes, what kind of schedule do we want for the LTS releases? If we're going to merge next every 6 weeks, it would make the most sense to align on that boundary than on the same week every calendar year kind of thing. Um, that we would just need to capture how that impacts, if it impacts our LTS, the 1812 pattern that we have. Do we want to tie that to months, or do we want to tie that to these 6-week cycles?
I'd say to months. Like, to me, LTS is like companies. It'll be much easier for companies that will be deploying the LTS if they can depend on a new LTS coming out at a specific time, a specific week of the year, every year. Because, like, say we want to roll out, I mean, it'll slowly propagate, right? And that means at some point we'll be releasing LTS right in the middle of the holiday season for everybody who's just the busiest time of the year. Nobody will be able to take that.
So the impact there. So if we do our LTS October 1st and we don't have another one of these merges from next for another 3 weeks, then there's a chance that LTS will not be the highest, or the highest minor within the previous major, right? So we end up with a situation where the updates to the LTS could end up breaking the version.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because if masters.
So I was wondering about this, and the LTS, does it really matter what the minor version is? So therefore, if an LTS falls within, well, and it probably will fall within a major, does the LTS release equal the same as the standard release for some time until the major version is bumped?
I would say yes. Okay. I would say yes. Like, for example, with IBM, when we're looking at LTS, we really don't want to see new features come in, new minor bumps,
right?
Because that's just additional stuff that we need to bump. We'd rather see just fixes happen. So I mean, it would tend to get a little more messy if we just tie it to the major.
Another option is to enforce this back onto the release plan and say, okay, this major minor is now LTS. You cannot introduce any more minor bumps, and then force that process to make any additive changes on the next major. That's probably not ideal over the release plan, but that's another possibility.
No, well, I don't think it'd be a problem to. Okay. I don't think it'd be problematic to release major on a strict schedule, mainly because, personally, I believe that when Next is merged into master, we should be one full release behind, so that we can, in one of the tickets I've outlined, basically a 6 week prep to release the next major, so devs can catch up. Like 6 weeks for libraries like NAND to catch up and get their release out, and then 6 weeks for module authors to get that implemented, so they can fix any possible breakage. That way, there's more than enough time for everybody to have things ready by the time the new breaking master is released. But that would require that master is always at least one major behind, or one V8 release behind. So a little bump here and there within a few weeks, right, shouldn't matter too much. That makes sense?
I think so.
Sorry.
But I guess does it resolve the problem of us being decoupled enough between the two so we never overlap?
Well, it decouples master and next. so that master can release on a regular cadence, and that way, when a specific day comes, master can release, and then LTS can release from that.
Okay.
I feel like we need a chart of this because I'm not taking it in. Sorry.
So it effectively just decouples us from the next merges. It just says that we take whatever is in master at a certain date, no matter what is coming, and that major minor becomes our LTS. But it still leaves the issue of that that LTS not being the highest minor within that current major.
Yeah, like unless we force, so I know that, so the earlier discussion was to force a major, which didn't sound like it was something we'd want, but then, the next one would be to force a minor, and then I guess, but like, does that ever get us out of the case where, the LTS can advance and have a certain number, but then the master could have advanced and also have the same number?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, we need a situation where we take over ownership in LTS of a particular major minor, and then other releases have to move to the next major. So whatever way we force that, whether we force it or just synchronize in some way.
Or decouple, right? Like we could just pick a different numbering scheme.
Oh, okay. Rod, if I can try one more time really quick. Next is always on the absolute latest of V8, which has a 6-week release, correct? If the moment that is pulled into Next, internal developers like Nan begin to prepare for it so that they can get their release out and allow module developers to get their thing implemented. So by the time that latest is brought into master, people will have had ample time to prepare for it. And then the moment that's brought in, a new major on master will be cut. And that means LTS can take the last commit or the last tag of the previous major and begin with that.
Right, but that is on the. You're talking about they're not on the 6-month cycle, on the 6-week cycle, right?
Well, next will be on the 6-week cycle, yes. Master will be on like 6-month or a year or whatever.
But that would still potentially leave like a 6-week window where one potentially could progress on the old main.
Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're talking about still is that the merge from Next to Master would still only be on either twice a year or once a year schedule, correct?
Yes. Like those merges would, based on the discussions from even Michael and Dominic, those have to happen on set dates.
Okay.
I think everybody agrees that Master has to be released on set dates.
So if we went with that, then yes. Then if as long as we could schedule at least one of those to be, within the same date or the same week every year, then that would work. We would time the LTS for that, and the issue of the LTS being on the highest minor is fine.
Would that mean that the LTS is 6 months, like 6 months behind on the V8 level?
Yes, it would at least be 6 months behind. If we merge twice a year, it would be 6 months behind.
So that gives us supporting V8 effectively for, what is it, 2.5 to, that's 3 years.
36.
3 years? So,
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be 36 months because so 6 plus 18 plus 12.
Just let that sink in there, Trevor. 3 years V8.
Oh no, trust me, that's a huge concern of mine. But I think I've been into tackling the version numbering thing more because I feel like that's more easily addressed.
Yeah, and I guess I just wonder, is it that we, like, do we want when an LTS goes out for it to be a 6-month-old V8 or something that's closer? I mean, there's advantages to both. I guess there's advantages that will be more baked, but then you're 6 months, you're always 6 months further behind than you might have been otherwise.
It does seem suboptimal just to do this to make version numbers work.
Yeah.
Though, okay, so I mean, like what Firefox does, right? They have a release, and they say this will be the LTS, and whenever this is over, we will continue to support it for X amount of time.
So, regardless of when we actually do this merge, we're already saying with the 1812 cycle that we're going to support this V8 for 30 months anyway. Is 30 that much? Is 36 much more worse than 30?
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that. It's just more the delaying of, like, I guess there's always, we don't want the latest, greatest V8 in the LTS when we cut it, but it's 6 months the period that makes sense. Because, like, for, say, 12, how old would the V8 have been? Maybe it is 6 months already, in which case, yeah, you know, it does make sense.
Keep in mind that, like, past a couple months, like, the amount of maintenance that you'll need to do to maintain the V8, it's going to be about the same anyways, because it's just going to be a mess either way.
Yeah. It's more the complaints of if somebody wants an LTS with some newer V8 features, how long will they have to wait to get that? One way it's 6 months longer. I don't know whether that matters or not, though.
Well, like,
It does give us a certain level of assurance, though, that we're not shipping we're not having to maintain something that has lots of surprises. Because if it's been out there for 6 months already and it's been iterated on, then
yeah, that's certainly
a lot of that stuff has been shaken out.
Yeah, that's definitely the plus side.
And also, I think the still massive number of users of V10 have shown that LTS users generally don't care about the latest greatest V8. Like maybe the developers within the group do, but the companies themselves definitely don't.
Right, they want something stable versus, yeah, I'm thinking that we wouldn't want the latest, greatest V8. You know, we probably want a couple months at least. So probably maybe 6 months really is just the same.
Okay.
And you can point to, yeah, it's been baked in master, so we know that one's good. And
Well, honestly, I feel like that stability time is more for Node than for V8. I mean, like, I'm thinking back on all the V8 specific patches we've had to roll out after a major release, or yeah, after a release.
right.
And they're few and far between, right? It's really is a lot of like, holy crap, we did this in Node and that in Node. And then like this last security issue that was V8, it had been in there for 2 years, I think, before we finally found it. So
Yeah, it seems that, like, normally when there's something that's up in V8, like, it's basically, like, fixed the next version anyways. So, like, it's only, like, I don't know, 2 6-week periods we'd be really worried about for that, or even 1.
And so for each LTS release, we're looking at least 2 V8 jumps. It's going to be out there for a year already being worked on. The thing should stabilize pretty damn well from one LTS to the other. So, yeah,
Sorry,
it's going to be a problem.
sorry, I didn't follow that. How many? What were we talking about? Jumps?
There's going to be 2 merges from next into master per LTS cycle
Okay.
from year to year.
Yeah.
So at least 2 potential V8 jumps in that time.
I hope so. I hope the 1 year discussion is out the window because that's way too long.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely needs to be more than 1 merge into master. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so can I summarize this then? And this is, if we put this down, then we can take that back to the other discussion. So let me get this right. we're going to synchronize with the next master merge, assuming that it's a 6 monthly cycle, or more than 1 year anyway, in some way. So whether it's 6 months or more often, where LTS takes over from the last merged version, and standard releases move on to the next merge, so that we're taking over a version of Node that's already 6 months or less old, and it's been bumping minor versions during that time, and we take over from that major minor, and then we'd end up supporting code that's been, well, a version of V8 for 36 months if it's a 6-monthly cycle. That's no more clear than how it was stated. Does that sound right, though?
Yes, that sounds correct.
Okay, so the thing that we need to try and assert back at the other discussion is that we'd like to see the next major merge happen at least twice a year for this to work.
Right.
And we should double check that it will be happening at regular, like weekly intervals.
Right.
Yeah.
At a strict date-based thing. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So at that point, what we ought to do is try to strike a target date for one of those and build a schedule around there. So, like, for instance, we want to release the LTS in October every year. What is a good time frame to actually cut that LTS? And then schedule the merges backwards from that.
Well, personally, I would say, looking at the company uptake, generalizing companies, when would the busiest time of year be? And then when could we release so that they would have ample time to implement the new LTS if they wanted to? Does that make sense?
Yep. Michael, do you have any thoughts on that, just from a perspective of what you guys are doing with?
Well, I was going to add that there also may be a lag, that just because you release it at a certain date, sometimes people wait a little bit to see how it goes before jumping on it, right?
Right.
So I don't know, I guess, 12 was early in the new year. I don't know if there were any issues with that. That seems like a reasonable time. You're back from Christmas. It's winter for lots of people. Versus the summer, which I don't think would be good. And, fall, sort of even December, once you get to December, there's even lockdowns in terms of, sites around Christmas, and even the Black Monday, those kind of things. So I'm thinking early in the new year, unless somebody else can think of things that happen around then.
The other thing we need to consider is our first LTS. Do we wait for a whole year before we're releasing, or do we force an early one?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to wait a whole year. Maybe it's you mean a year from when 12 came out, or a year from now?
Well, no, I'm just thinking if we got organized and had started having new Node releases out from, say, October, how do we schedule our first LTS? Do we just wait for that 6-monthly cycle to happen, or because it has to depend on when we start getting new releases out, doesn't it? Unless we can get the next master merge thing happening on a different cycle to suit us.
Well, I mean, I think as far as just starting to get some momentum going and showing that we actually are making progress, getting a LTS out of the Converge stream before the end of the year would be ideal. But, that's more of a kind of PR statement than a...
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I'm
very
agreed too.
That we do that, yeah.
We got to get an LTS there.
So what we need to do here is find a date and then assert back to the release plan that a next master merge has to happen by that date. regardless of how long it is after we start releasing from the converge stream.
The other thing on that front is I'd like, if at all possible, for that LTS to include a 4.3 V8, because that's where PPC is supported. So it'd be a shame to have the first LTS not include that, from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, IOGS is already going to be on 44, so it'll be fine.
Okay. And just thinking if we got 6 months and then 6 months. But yeah, as long as that goes in, that'll be good.
So the question then is, are we talking about special casing this first LTS and then setting a fixed schedule after that?
Well, unless we can synchronize the first release of the converge stream to the plan, then it has to be a special case. Or if we want the date to be forced on us by when we happen to get the converge stuff out. I mean, which might not be a bad thing. Like maybe we need to force a converged release by a particular date just to get it happening instead of letting it float.
Probably be a good idea. Oh, we need to set a deadline for that. Okay.
Okay, so then we come back to what is the ideal date? Is it October-ish? Is it New Year? I don't have strong opinions on this at all. Because being on the other side of the world and not in the US, it's not clear to me what the ideal timeframes are over there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, October, you've now got only a month. That might give people November if they wanted to get things in before Christmas. And I think even, when's Black Friday?
Late November.
Right, so I think I'm suspecting that an October one would mean things might not happen till the new year anyway.
Yeah, If we're going to have two of these merges each year, a fall merge would not be a good one for the LTS. Something past the new year, early spring would be ideal for the LTS.
Yeah, I think so too.
So.
You know, we might want to
go ahead. Early fall, like September. Because I mean, otherwise it's kind of weird to stuff two of them in a year. If you're doing one that's like just past December, then like the other side of the year would be like July, right? So we could like do two in the spring.
But that's for normal releases, not LTS. But our LTS is always going to be on the same date every year. And if we pull that back before,
is the discussion
we're forcing ourselves to get a converged release out very soon?
Is the discussion doing two normal releases a year or two LTSs a year?
At least two releases per year, just one LTS per year. So here's a question: does our first converged release actually have to be an LTS?
No, because then we're stopping minor version bumps. That's the problem with doing that. We have to wait until there's a major version bump before we can release. We could force that early, but how early? And that goes back to the original discussion of synchronizing. So my when we could start converging and then the problem is if we go with a normal release cycle 6 monthly and we start that from when we could do the converge, then we won't have an LTS for 6 months after we do a converged release, which is not ideal from a messaging and PR perspective.
Yeah.
So we have to get the converged release out and then start that next master merge and standard release cycle happening at some point soon after that. Soon enough to, get the converged release stable so that we can be supporting something with LTS that we're not, unhappy with, but not too late as to be a PR problem.
Okay.
I wonder, yeah. So I wonder if we have to if we special case this one, like what would it be? Would it be that we have an extra merge from next into master, or is it that?
No, it would be that process of merging next to master starts at a particular date that is not 6 months after we first release.
Right.
So we start that cycle rolling at, maybe it's 3 months after we converge, release converge.
Right.
Yeah, that actually is appealing because it's sort of like, okay, we're now doing it. Although I guess some people may not want to wait,
but they're going to I don't think I would be comfortable saying an LTS happens from our first converge release because we have to shake out some things from that.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't mean wait on LTS. I meant wait on the process of the routine merges.
Right. Well, we wouldn't be waiting on it. We'd be forcing it earlier than it would otherwise happen.
Right. Okay.
So say if we can get the converged stream together by end of August, we can force the next master merge by October and go from there. And that kicks off our 6 month cycle. That gives us 2 months, or roughly, a little bit about a month to make changes to the converged master before we actually cut the LTS from it.
I guess the difference is though then, so we've got the LTS in October, but then which is the time frame we think is not great for an LTS. Although, having said that, maybe that's not true. Like nobody would use it potentially for the next few months because of the freezes and everything, but that would give people time to experiment with it. And then, start using it in the new year when all the main stuff is over.
But if we say that first LTS is a special case, but on an ongoing basis our future LTSs are going to be cut in spring, that means we're going to have one case where we have an LTS that overlaps for, or two LTSs that overlap for a longer period of time. But after that, we get into the cycle where we're only having the 6 month overlap that's in the strawman. So for about a year, it means we have two active LTSs going at the same time. I don't see it as a big problem. It's a little bit more work for that first year, but I don't see it as being a huge problem.
And again, we come back to the question of what is an ideal date. Is it October? Is October a bad date? Was somebody suggesting that was probably?
Yeah, like it's bad from the perspective if you want people to pick it up and use it immediately. But I see people tend to let things mature a little bit anyway, right?
Right.
So maybe it's not so bad after all.
So what is it that makes it bad for immediate pickup?
It's things like Black Friday and Christmas.
Oh, because you're coming up on, right, okay, so you're coming up on seasonal traffic things, and you don't want to be deploying something new.
Right. Okay. Some people even have like a complete deployment freeze during some of those periods.
Right. And most of the people that would be at least experimenting and playing with it are going to be busy supporting their environments during those busy times anyway. So
but I'm thinking maybe it's okay, because it's brand new. I don't know how many people are going to say the first day the LTS is released that yes, we're going to pick it up and flip it into production, right? They may pick it up and start using it in test and development, and so maybe that doesn't conflict after all.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because the alternative is to wait for our first LTS until sometime in the new year.
Yeah, or special case it and have one 6 months after the other, right?
Yeah, I feel like special casing anything with the LTS stuff other than the 0.10, 0.12 concerns would make our messaging a lot more difficult.
Yeah. What version, like if we release an LTS early, what would be the version that's taken?
We're talking about sticking to the major and the highest minor of the first converged release.
So wherever IOGS is right now, plus one major.
So 3?
Unless we roll up to 3 or before then it would be 4.
Yeah, we're attempting to get 3 out now, but that's turning out to be very difficult.
Yeah.
Fun process. So if, for example, if like I said, if we get the converged stream going by end of August, right, then there's going to be a whatever IOGS is at that time, plus the converged pieces, and then we would force the next major merge, like say the first week in October, which would force that major bump. The LTS would become the major minor right before that merge.
Yeah, I'd be tempted to just make that the LTS timeline unless we get some real feedback that says
it's just not going to work, right?
Yeah, like I mean, I don't expect, it's maybe not the time that people are going to pick it up, but I'm thinking they're not going to anyway. So in that case, it's just fine.
If nothing else, we can propose that schedule. We can put some dates, all this
Exactly.
Yeah. Straw man, just call it this is the proposed and let people push back and tell us that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we're committing to getting a converged release out in August.
It's going to be fun, but I think we can do it.
And
we could probably do it.
We need to put pressure on somewhere.
Yeah. If we don't put a date, it's just going to keep stretching out.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to draw a line at some things and just.
And something we could consider here, given that we're trying to get a 3 out for IOJS, we could actually, this is not going to make people happy, but we could push that work, instead of getting a 3 out for IOJS, we could push that effort into the converged release and say IOJS version 3 is not happening, but converged release version 3 is happening, and that's where we're focusing our efforts. Given that 3 is a delay in IOJS already, significant delay, that might be difficult.
Sorry, I'm slightly lost. Why? I guess do the converge repo and IOGS, are they going to have the same version numbers?
No. So as soon as we get a converged out, that will be the current IOJS, whatever that is at the time, plus 1. I think that's been the agreement so far. So the question is whether we are still keeping up the effort on IOJS to get the current version out, which is version 3, or if we defer that effort into the converged release. So okay, given that a lot of the pain of this upgrade is to do with the C++ layer, I think I'm inclined to still try and get the IOJS out just to because that pain is going to be felt across the whole NPM ecosystem. That putting pressure on a bit more gently via IOJS is probably going to be better for that upgrade rather than having a huge amount of pain caused by the first new release.
Yeah, basically it'll make the LTS's life easier, so I think that I agree with that.
It'll make people blame IOJS more than it does make people blame the converged release, which is probably what we want.
Right.
So people are going around saying, you need to upgrade your code to this horrible new thing because of IOJS, not because of the new version of Node, and everyone's throwing up their hands saying this is terrible. Okay, so that means the converged release will probably be a version 4, and we're going to try and do that by August, and then we're going to try and start the next to master merge in October, and that will be our time frame for the 12 monthly releases. So is that our new proposed strawman date setup?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And August, yeah.
James, do you want to take that as an action item to work into that document, or do you have time restrictions?
Yeah, I'll do that. The other changes I propose change it from a straw man LTS to the proposed LTS, give it a little bit more weight. And then I'll put those dates in and kind of tweak it just a little bit to show the twice per year merges that we were hoping for.
Right, and what's the next step in terms of review? Do we get more GitHub review, or is it time to do more than that?
I think we really need company review. We need to be going out and, at NodeSource we need to be going out and talking to our customers, and Strongly needs to be doing the same. Joyent should be doing the same. I don't know what IBM's process would be around that, but we need corporate feedback on this.
Yep. No, we can. If we have the, here's the proposal. We can go to our internal users and.
Yeah. One thing that I will also do today is ping Mark Dolan, see if we can get a note put together and sent out to the foundation membership, pointing them at this proposal and soliciting feedback from them. So I'll take that as a to-do to get out today.
Speaking of convergent stuff, Michael, do you think you can get some time to review some of the issues on the Converge repository? There are a bunch of them that I think are relying on you taking a look at them.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I wasn't aware of that. I can take a look. Probably later this week.
Okay. So do we have anything else on that, or do we have additional agenda items? Let's see, we're coming up to the top of the hour. So.
Yeah, I wanted to mention having more people doing releases for 010 and 012. I don't think having one person doing that is sustainable. So I just wanted to reach out to you guys if you were interested in contributing to that, or if you had any ideas on how to engage more people in this process.
You mean to have like authorized releasers for it?
No, I mean having other people than me doing releases of 010 and 012.
Right.
That's the same thing, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I didn't understand your question correctly. That could be just having basically I'm doing the releases like currently of 010 and 012, and it is not sustainable to have just one person doing that. So if we have more than one person who is able to do that,
right,
then we are in a better position.
Just like how myself, Rod, and Chris
Yes.
can do releases on IHS, right?
Exactly, yes.
Is the infrastructure on the Node.js side set up so that multiple people could do it? Sort of
Yes.
how ours is, where we sign, releases from our own keys or whatever, or I'm not sure what would be required there.
Yeah. You basically what's required is there's a document on Joyent/Nodes wiki where the release process is basically described as a step-by-step guide, and one of the requirements before being able to do a release is setting up your PGP key and other stuff. So everything is in there. It's nothing like too much different from the IOJS release process, but it's definitely not identical. It's just a few details that differ, I guess. So basically, if anybody can do it, it's not difficult. There are a few manual steps. So you obviously, like any people interested, would need to be like we would need to do the first release you would do. We would need to do it together just to make sure that like if something goes wrong, then I can fix it. And also as a training process. But there's nothing currently that prevents anyone from doing a release.
Do you have people in mind for this, or are you looking for that list?
I think the most important thing is having people who are interested in doing this. So anybody from from the current IOJS release team, or from this LTS group, or from the build working group, anyone interested. I wanted to talk to it to raise this here first because 010 and 012 are like the current LTS releases, so that seems to be the proper channel.
Yeah,
but
you're right. It's like we need a we may need to separate those lists of who's releasing IOJ, so who's releasing the head releases and who's releasing LTS releases, because they are different concerns and probably need a different approach. I don't see a path to formulating who those people are.
Right. For the short term, Julian, I can volunteer to help. I'll just need to work with you on exactly what the process is. I'll go review the week, go from there. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to commit to it long term.
Okay.
So I can at least help out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Do you have any idea of like what could be a good way to find out who could be interested?
How about we bring this up at the next TSC meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. So James, we'll have a chat, or I'll send you an email about maybe coordinating so that you can get more information on how to do a release, and then we'll see, like if you want to do one of the upcoming releases, then we can sync and we can do it, together, and then.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's shoot me an email. We'll sync up offline.
Okay.
The other thing we also is this something we think that there will be people who really want to do the releases, or is it? I'm just thinking, we've talked about before the foundation funding some work. This sounds like something we might propose if we don't think there's people who would want to be doing it.
So the thing is, I think for people doing releases, I think the ideal person would be, or the ideal group of people would be a group of people who is following, what's going on pretty closely.
Right. So, yeah, that's true.
Especially when you have security releases, or it requires a bit of knowledge about what's going on in the project. So I'm not sure if having someone that is a bit external to the project would be ideal, but yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, I think we can do this. The challenge here is, and this is the challenge we've had with IOJS releases, is making, and maybe Jeremiah, you're a good one to talk to this, making people feel much more authorized to do the releases rather than needing to look for permission. And I think, Jeremiah, you've been the best at taking the bull by the horns with this, and Chris not so much. But I'd like to see more stepping up of doing releases rather than me having to do so many of them. And so whether that means we need to broaden the pool or just be better at selecting, I'm not sure.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm not really sure. Usually we have the sort of thing where we propose a release that the person that proposed it does it, but I can do more than that too. If Rod proposed the release and be like, Jeremiah, take it away, I can do that too.
Yeah,
I don't know where we
I
can
think this
find
is a
like
good
more
discussion
people for it.
for TSC maybe.
I mean, yeah. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
The other thing that we have said initially, and even though we haven't lived up to this, is that we don't. These people don't necessarily need to be TSC members.
Yeah, it's not needed.
I mean, so far I think I'm the only person who wasn't a TSC member to like actually propose a release. So maybe we're just not encouraging people enough. Like that could be possible. Because I don't think I've seen anyone else who like isn't sort of like that be like, hey, let's have a release.
Yeah, it does feel like a big deal. You need someone special to propose a release, but we probably need to maybe force that by getting someone else to do one of the releases. Anyway, let's mull on this one and bring it to TSC. That's good.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the other three things we have are there was V8 support, thresholds for backporting. Julian, did you want to bring forward discussion on OpenSSL? I wasn't aware that something was coming up, but maybe I haven't read my email this morning.
Yeah, they announced an upcoming release that fixes a high severity vulnerability, and it's gonna come out on Thursday. So we'll probably want to have a release on Thursday or Friday. I haven't had the time to look into the repository if something landed that corresponds to that announcement, but yeah.
Okay, so
I opened an issue.
1.0.2D and P. Is 0? What is 0.10 on? Is it still on 0.9? What is it?
No, 1.0.10 basically. Same
So
as
they're both,
12.
Okay, so 10 and 12 are both 101. Okay.
Yeah, I opened an issue on the security repo about this and pinged the TSC, but I don't think that many people have responded yet.
I think this is probably something we want to just do on the public repo because it needs to be public knowledge early. They're making it public knowledge, so we need to make it public knowledge.
Right. Agreed.
Okay, Julian, I think that's just a matter of you coordinating with probably myself and Jeremiah just to make these happen. We'll make sure there's issues open across the repos and get them out.
Yeah. We don't necessarily need to be synchronized, I guess.
No, we don't, but we need to make sure that they happen.
Oh yeah. That will happen.
I guess the other question was whether it'll be our previous release plus just that update or all the changes in between. I know for us it's much easier to say to turn around a release quickly if it's like we know it's just this one change versus like if there's an NPM upgrade, we actually have to go to our lawyers and get the okay, all those kinds of things in.
It's actually a good thing to discuss here because what we would do in IIJS is just roll it all up.
Yeah.
But it may not be best practice for at least LTS. But is it even best practice for the converged repo?
So at some point, I think we'll want to ship these NPM upgrades.
Yeah.
So I mean, if we can ship, what's on the 0.12 branch, and yeah, I think we want to do that. But then, yeah, like if you absolutely need more time to be able to ship this, I think we should also like look into how we can improve that process on your side because like I don't know how long it takes for you to validate a NPM upgrade. Do you have any information on that?
I mean, we can often turn things around in about a day.
Okay.
But then we have to ask, somebody else based on the results. So, it's not just the NPM upgrade, but that it may pull in additional modules. We have to figure all that out. Then we have to pass it on to somebody else and go through the process of explaining to them why all the licenses are okay of these new modules or dependencies, that kind of stuff. And so there's some back and forth. Sometimes some time zones play into that. So we can usually make it happen within a few days, but it's when like the latest one where we thought it was very very severe. We don't want to be that far behind, right?
Yeah. So is it only about npm dependencies, or
It's any of the any third-party dependencies that are introduced, we have to go back and review.
okay?
So
Yeah, I mean those are the bigger ones. The smaller changes, are less of an issue. But it's really clear when we go to our additional SVT to say, well, how much extra testing do we have to do if it's just this one change? It's like, okay, we know it's only related to OpenSSL. We know that's been validated, so we're fairly comfortable. If there's other changes that have gone out, it takes more effort just to say, yeah, we understand them, we're comfortable with them, and we've tested them enough.
Yeah, like one thing that is maybe difficult to evaluate for us is that because that process is not necessarily transparent for us, like the Node.js project, it's difficult for us to. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, but it's difficult for us to comply to a process that is not open and transparent, basically.
So, with regards to landing npm updates in an LTS, like 0.12, what is our general policy with regards to that? So we've talked before about not landing any new features in an LTS. Does an npm upgrade count as a new feature or not?
So usually npm is more considered as something that we ship alongside Node, but not a dependency. It's just a way for npm to have an easy installation of their software bundled with Node, but it's not necessarily a dependency. And that's why the version numbers are between Node and npm are not necessarily correlated. They're not necessarily as tied as any change that is made to any internal module. Like there could be a breaking change in npm. As long as it's good for npm, then it's fine with us.
Well, so yeah, like in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like in the past npm has been like, we've changed stuff, upgrade, or nothing will work. And the issue with npm versus like Node is that Node, we may upgrade something, but somebody has an old version and they can still run it on their machine. With npm, since it all uses some central registry, it's like if they decide to change what the registry looks like, then either we have to upgrade npm or the users won't be able to use npm at all, right? So
there was a mention of npm LTS. I didn't get anything out of Cat on the, I think it was a community discussion, but there was some mention of them doing an LTS, so I'd like to get us details about what that means.
Yeah, we may need to push back on that a little bit more, so okay.
Yeah, so I think I'd separate that issue out a little bit, in that, even if we need to do ongoing npm upgrades, it's just when we do them that might be the discussion.
But I think back to what we were discussing, which is actually OpenSSL. There's probably a couple of things here. One is security policy, and I think we're going to have that discussion coming out of the security release last week about a better security policy for all our releases. And the other one is, what is the threshold for the kinds of things that we include in just in LTS releases? Does that include npm upgrades, etc.? So maybe we can shift that discussion of what else gets bundled with a security release into that separate discussion.
Yeah.
But that other item still stands of what is the threshold for things that get backported and included in LTS releases.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think just what we would, Yeah, we just started the discussion because I was asking for this one that's upcoming what we were going to do.
Right. Yeah, if we have to adopt a policy of saying if there's a security release, then nothing else but the security patches get in, then maybe that'll be a good thing. But I don't know if that's that's just a guess at what was one way we could approach it. But
yeah, I don't want to force anything. I'm just asking because I know what's easier for me, so I might as well ask, right?
Yeah, no, and that's important feedback actually. To hear that because we released. I don't know what else was included in 0.12, but in IOJS there was at least 2 other commits in there that were completely unrelated.
No, in 12 we just released the security fix precisely because we wanted to accommodate the process from IBM.
Yeah, so I don't want to force anything just on our requirements, but I do want to.
Now the thing too is that the test suite that you run I think is very valuable. So we also want to, I think, the project benefits from it. So even though we don't want to block npm upgrades for too long, because of a process that is not necessarily transparent. At the same time, we also, I think it's good for the project if you guys can still, give us feedback about the test suite that you run and all that. So that's why I was saying that maybe we could find a way to improve the cooperation around that process, so that you guys, are not too stressed out with new releases, and the project still benefits from the test suite that you run.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to pull. I mean, James still has that on his list to try and get pieces of that over. Unfortunately, parts of it are just our legal due diligence.
Yeah, it could be a bit difficult to get message that we are not shipping upgrades to npm because of something that is not open to to anyone to suggest improvement for, or anything.
So I agree. Yes, I know there's the balance between we don't want to block things going out versus So yeah, in this case, I don't know whether how severe this next vulnerability will be.
Also, yeah. So basically, maybe let us know if that's an option to ship. If it's a big problem to ship the npm upgrade that is currently in 0.12. Let us know. If it's not a big problem, or if you can get that sorted out before Thursday or Friday, then that if that works, then that's fine.
Okay.
And then let's find a way to maybe decouple a bit this process, and also maybe find a process where as soon as a PR to upgrade npm lands, then maybe you can start your legal checking.
Yeah, that was
then,
suggestion.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Can we leave this here? We've got these 2 items still left over, but I think Ben wanted to be in the V8 support discussion, and the other one's lower priority. So if we wrap this up, then I have time to go and have breakfast before my next meeting.
Okay.
And yeah, so we've been going for over an hour now anyway.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll see some of you at least tomorrow, and then the next day we'll probably be all back again.
Okay, sounds good.
Talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.